Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Appreciating Veterans, especially on Sunday. First, let's give out some props. We'd like to thank our Post 875 for their continued support and allowing us the space to come in and do our show. We also would like to thank the Albert and Willie Lee Johnson Family Foundation. They provide the equipment, and just give me a chance to explore different things and different avenues as far as broadcasting is concerned. We're very, very grateful for them, and we thank them very much. Another thing I want to get out to the veterans before we get started, and I introduce my guest. I'm starting what we're calling letters to the adjutant. As you may well know, I've just been appointed the adjutant of our AMVETS Post 34. And what I want to do, I want to get some kind of idea of who's outside watching me, who's outside listening to our show, and what other things specifically we can do to make things for our veterans more convenient. So any veteran that's out there today or listening to me, or veterans family members, I would like for you to sit down and write me a letter or ask me a question about things that you may be concerned about. As far as your benefits are concerned, or if you have questions that you can't get an answer to, I would like for you to write to me at 401 Van Ness Street, San Francisco, California, 94102 in Suite 123. At 401 Robert Williams, 401 Van Ness Street, San Francisco, California, 94102. Suite 123. And I will get your questions, I will answer your questions on our next program. Or if I can't find the answer for you, I will find someone who has an answer and invite them to the show where you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth, as they may say. Also, veterans, we have to take care of each other. We have to have you to do the things that are necessary for you to be healthy. I know a lot of you can't get around like you used to do. And we need to know who you are. We need to know what help you're receiving and what you're lacking. And that way we can get people around to you to help you. Or if you need meals, if you need a place to stay, if you need information on benefits or claims or any of these things, we here at AMVETS Post 34, that's what we thrive on. That's what we do. We are a full service organization, and we got only you in mind, our veterans. And we want to be able to help you in any way we can. So get those letters in the mail to me. That's Robert Earl Williams, 401 Van Ness Street, San Francisco, California, 94102. And I'll get back to you on the next program. We had a lady come in to talk with us last week. Last week was the first time I got a chance to meet her. And she does meditation therapy. Now, if you were like myself, I had no idea what that all entails. But today I got brave and I decided I would go down and let her, no, I shouldn't say got brave. Maybe I should say I went down to see what it was all about. And believe me, it was very, very interesting. I went to set into the session, and she explained to us how to relax and how to meditate. And I found myself in between sleep and consciousness and aware of everything that's going on around me. It was just a beautiful feeling. I woke up very, very relaxed, very, very comforted. We were in a very safe environment. Here in the War Memorial Building, we're comfortable here. We don't have anything to worry about here. So we were very well taken care of, and she knows her business. This evening, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Jan Newell. Jan, welcome.
Hello, Robert.
Thank you so much for coming by.
I'm so happy to be here again, and it's a pleasure to be able to provide information to our veterans about a relaxation therapy that can help them and that works and has proven that post-traumatic stress can be reduced, the symptoms can be reduced.
Outstanding.
So it's my contribution to the veterans to bring this to them, and I just I welcome the opportunity to be able to express to them that this is here available for our veterans, and let you know what it is I've got for you.
Okay. Well, I'm very, very glad to have you. We're glad that you're a part of helping veterans, veteran helpers. And we, first of all, let me ask you this. How did you get involved into this meditation field? Is it a degreed field? And if so, how did you get into it? And then just tell the vets out here what's going on with this field.
I am a sister of a Vietnam veteran. My older brother was a LERP in the Army in 1968 and 69. And when he came back from Vietnam, he seemed like he was okay. And he disappeared for about 3 months, went off doing some traveling. And when he came home, things started coming up for him. And he ended up in and out of mental hospitals, and he just disappeared. And then he'd show up, and then he disappeared, and eventually he just stopped showing up. And so we didn't know what was going on. Post-traumatic stress disorder wasn't defined then.
Okay.
And they didn't define PTSD, that's what's short for post-traumatic stress disorder. They didn't define it until 1980. So when my brother came out of Vietnam, they didn't have a category for his symptoms. So they just called him paranoid schizophrenic. And so there was no treatment for him, and he ended up homeless, mentally ill, and in my opinion, he's gone 40 years with PTSD untreated. So he was missing from our family for about 37 years. Okay. And I found him 2 years ago. We tried to find him in the past. Mom and I tried to find him, but he's just elusive as a butterfly. When you say
that he was missing in the family, are you saying that since he came back to the States, he was missing?
Since he came back from Vietnam, and he was in and out of our lives a little bit, and very troubled. He had tried to commit suicide a couple of times, and he would show up at Mom's house, and then he would disappear, and then he'd show up with aunties, and he'd disappear. And finally, he just stopped coming around. And that was about 37 years that we didn't know where he was or anything about him. Okay. So this last time of trying to find him, I was bound and determined, and I did.
Okay. Where'd you find him at?
I found him living up in the woods in Placerville area. My cousin knew a little bit, because my cousin was in on the sheriff's department, and he says, I don't know anything, I can't tell you, Janny, you got to find out about your brother by yourself, because for some reason he just didn't want me to know. My cousin's a Marine, and he was being protective or something, I don't know what. So I did it. I found out my own self. Okay. And I did my little detective work. I found out through the sheriff's department that my brother was living on the bike trail. And then I found out that he had been living out on 400 acres of BLM land. And it's right in the area where we used to have a family cabin, and we would go there when we were kids, along the Cosumnes River.
Oh, something familiar to him.
Really, yeah. It's
something was something familiar to him.
You know, when I was talking to you today about the inner resource, well, he found an outer resource, and Robert will share with the meditation that I gave today, and one of the tools that we give the vets is to come to find an inner resource of sanctuary. Right. Well, what my brother did was he found an outer resource, an inner sanctuary, and he actually lived out in the woods. They call him a bush vet. There's a lot of Vietnam veterans that live out in the woods on the island of Hawaii. They live out in the jungle and eat papayas and mangoes and whatever. And they call them bush vets. They live out in the bush, and my brother has been a bush vet up in this area that he has known about. So I caught up with him at a soup kitchen, to make a long story short. I mean, there's a lot to my story, but I caught up with him at a soup kitchen, and I have a policeman that I call the policeman up, and I say, Sergeant Coral, have you seen him lately? And he'll say, yeah, I saw him 2 weeks ago, and I always tell him about you. And so then when I hear he's in the area, I go up to the soup kitchen and I sit with him. He's disassociated from the family. He denies that I'm his sister, but that's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
know that he's my brother and I love him. And so I do that. I've gotten to see him 7 times. And I
Okay.
just go and I hang out with him and I go, tell me about all those tattoos on your arm, you know, and I like touch his tattoos and he lets me touch his tattoos, which is like a big deal. And I make him tell me stories about those tattoos and he's got stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
like the first time I saw him and I was like, how am I going to tell him I'm his sister? How am I going to tell him? Because 37 years, I don't look the same and he doesn't, you know, and so he says, how's he going to know I'm his sister? So I looked over at him and I said, well, what, you know, I want to tell you that I'm your sister, Jan. And he looks away from me and he says, well, I don't play in that rodeo. And he went off into some schizophrenic conversation and I went, oh yeah, I go, so you like rodeos, do you? And then he started talking to me about horses and you know, and so I just go along with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had consulted a couple of psychologists that specialize in PTSD and they told me how to be with him and, you know, if I talk about he and I talk about it as he's the, you know, third person, like I brought in some photographs to show,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, oh look, this is a picture of me and my brother when we were little kids, and he like craned his neck to look at it, you know, but he's not going to admit that I'm his sister.
Right.
So he just can't go there, and I totally understand it because each time that I leave him, I was driving back home and I was just bawling my eyes out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I can imagine for him to handle all of a sudden 37 years later and here's his sister sitting next to him, he's not going to even deal with that.
That's out. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
And are you going to get me to go there? So I know this.
Okay.
So I'm just cool. And so you know, I find out, I go, what the heck happened to my brother?
Mm-hmm.
I found him, he was missing from our family. I found him and I'm like, what is going on? So I just read every book I could and I read books about, I want to know what he saw. I want to know what he did. I want to know the details, you know. And so I've got a couple of books that I've read that tell the details. And you know what? Who would not be traumatized after the experience that our soldiers go through in war? There is not one person in this world that would not be traumatized from those experiences.
That's
and
very
it's
true.
ridiculous, in my opinion, for people to think that, oh, you're a sissy if you're bothered by it. That's just really, that's unrealistic.
That's unrealistic,
It's
yes.
totally unrealistic, in my opinion. So, I want to, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder is real. It is something that we need to come in on for every single soldier that experiences a war, and to treat it not as a pathology, but a moral and a soul wound, and to treat it in natural ways, not numbing them out with medication, and because it's not going to go away that way. It just numbs them out, and then they can't function in, you know, in society. So I am learning. I have found all these things out, and I'm like, what can I do as a sister besides opening my mouth like I am right now? What can I do as a sister to help with post-traumatic stress disorder? And I found this meditation therapy. It's called I-Rest Yoga Nidra. And I'll give you a little background on I-Rest Yoga Nidra. In 2006, the Department of the Defense came to Dr. Richard Miller, who's a clinical psychologist, and said, help us. We need to find a way to help our veterans coming out of war. So he did a research project at Walter Reed Medical Center on young returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. The research was so effective and so well received that now they implement it every single day on active duty soldiers returning from war. And there's
a prerequisite for them when they get out?
They have to go.
Okay, I didn't know
There's
that.
a woman who, her name is Robin Carnes, and she does I-Rest on them. She gets a group of soldiers, men and women, for 3 weeks solid every day. They do the I-Rest on them amongst other healing modalities, but I-Rest is given to them every single day for 3 weeks solid. And now they're using it in 6 VA hospitals across the country, and our goal is to have it implemented in all the VA hospitals. And I think the way that we're going to have that happen is if the veterans say, we want this. We feel it helps us. It's natural, and we request that the VA hospital
Provide the service.
system provide this for us because it's working for us in a natural way.
Well, I can tell you from experience. When I got out of the war, came back from Vietnam War, I got nothing but a paycheck and sent home. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was no kind of follow-up of any kind. Nobody asked me how I felt, what I thought. And then you come back to all the media blitz or the media hype about why we shouldn't have been there versus why we were there. And you know, when you lose good friends and you lose comrades and you lose brothers or uncles and aunts and stuff like that, you know, and then you get here and you expect a little sympathy, or you expect a little consolation, as one may say, and you get nothing. I want you to tell the veterans briefly what types of disorders, as they may be called, that this IRS therapy helps the veterans with. What is it that IRS yoga nidra?
Yeah, it's
yoga. What is it that it does to help the veteran? I know. I mean, speaking strictly for myself, today after I had a session with Jan, I'm telling you, I really feel a lot better. And I'm not just saying this because she's sitting here, but it really, really helped me. I mean, I was out like a light, but I was quite aware. I was quite aware of what was going on around me. And I found it very comforting. I found it very soothing. I could hear her voice. And I'm telling you, veterans, we need to find out more information about this. And you need to come down here one Sunday, maybe probably not next Sunday, but the Sunday after, and have a session with Jan. It's free. We got your slack. Come on down. And but Jan, tell us what about some of these disorders that you found that it helps.
Well, what it is the meditation takes you down into a deep relaxation, somewhere between sleep and wakefulness. And some of the symptoms that it helps with is insomnia. I know a lot of vets have trouble sleeping. It helps reduce the symptoms. It helps reduce the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, which entails anxiety, fear, insomnia, depression. Sometimes vets get into chemical substance abuse. There's chronic pain, you know, from being in war where they have injuries and that kind of thing. And it also helps with personal relationships in general. So what it is that I take you into a deep relaxation, and we start with, there's 10 different levels of IRS Yoga Nidra that I take you through. We set an intention for what you want to get out of the practice. We go into your heartfelt desire, what you want to manifest most in your life and how you want your life to be. And then we go to your inner resources, a place that you create and design in your head, a place of sanctuary where you can get, it's an inner resource, a place of sanctuary. Say you're having a flashback in a restaurant or something like that, you be aware of what you got going on, you take a moment and you go into your inner resource, and it's a place of safety and ease, like a waterfall or a meadow where you can have your dogs with you, your loved ones, whoever. And then I take you into a body sensing. We sense the body, and we'll be sitting up in chairs. In some environments we can be laying down, like in a yoga studio. And then I take you into body sensing. We go into breath, and then we go into some emotions and feelings. Then we get into some beliefs. Then I'll take you into joy, the joy of being who you are, regardless of all these things that happen and arise in our lives as a human. And then we go into witnessing yourself and your emotions and your beliefs and the images as you're like an outsider looking in at these things so that you can be objective about them and you can identify them. And once you can identify these things that come up, then you can work on neutralizing them and dissolving them eventually. Just like practicing the piano, you gotta practice the tools I give you. And then I take you into just pure being a heartful, soulful human that we all are.
Yes. Well, so, if let me ask you this: you know that a lot of the veterans that are at home may not be able to come down here. Do you do in home? Do you do in home, or is it just you have to come to a specific place? Let me ask that one question, and then on top of that, if a veteran can tune into the show, that maybe we can do on live, or maybe we can get you to do a live show. Yeah. Is it something that you can do live to help the veterans at home?
Well, usually, like right now, I've been working with the Sacramento Vet Center. I have a group of people up there, and I do it in person, like I did with you today, yes, Robert, yes, and the group. My next thing that I'm going to be offering is using Skype. So I have a computer with a little camera at the top of it, and then if you at home has a little computer at the top of it. And maybe we can make arrangements to film a session here, and then they can do the YouTube on it. Usually it'll be, we can do that if you like. We just haven't gotten that far with that.
I'll speak to the director about that.
We can do that, and then they can do a YouTube thing with it, or maybe we can make a CD and then pass out CDs or something on that order. One of the things that's very exciting is that I know that there's a naval hospital down in San Diego that does big screen psychotherapy on veterans right in combat to help them right there at war. And the psychiatrist is in San Diego, and the men and women are in war, and they work on them right there. And that would be my dream, is to.
That's beautiful.
I would really love to be able to participate in something like that, but they're using video, So I was thinking, I don't know why we can't do that.
Yes, 21st
so we'll
century.
Brainstorm about that for future help of how we can work with the vets.
Thank you, Jan. I really, really appreciate. I want to say thank you very, very much for coming in and sharing with our veterans what exactly we're doing here. What exactly we're doing here with the IRS. A couple other things I want to ask you before we go. What type of improvements have you been seeing since you've been doing this as far as helping vets? I know they talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Have you seen any real significant help as far as the veterans are concerned when they constantly or consistently do this IRS yoga?
One veteran that I have in particular, just recently, he's done just 3 classes with me. First he came for the first 2, and then he couldn't come because emotions were coming up and he couldn't deal with it, he wasn't ready. And then he came for my 5th class, and actually he was able to release some emotions that he had suppressed, and it surprised him, and it was associated to a pain that he was having in his body. So I'm hoping to talk to him soon and see if that pain has changed in his body. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. So the emotions are attached to something physical that's happening in our bodies, and what I think is really happening here with the IRS is that when the men and women go into combat, they have to suppress everything, and then it's still there. And so what happens is that things start to come up and out and go away.
But
and get released.
When these emotional feelings come out during a session, are you qualified, or do you have people there to help you deal with these emotions with the veterans? I would hate to be sitting in a circle and one of the vets have one of these emotional crises and there's nobody there to help him. How are you prepared to help a veteran when he has a crisis like that coming?
Well, in the Sacramento Vet Center, the psychologist is in there with me, and we are a team together. And I just recently finished a specialized training to work with veterans of combat and trauma.
Okay.
So I'm prepared for abreactions when they arise. I've just got my training in that, and that's what an abreaction would be like.
Understand.
When we're in the room there, and like this gentleman, his emotions came out, and they were in the form of tears, but they could have been in the form of anger, which happens a lot with vets, and I am trained to deal with abreactions.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, veterans. We're sitting here talking with Jan Newell. She is an Irish yoga nada.
Iris Yoga Nidra.
Nidra. That's how you say it.
Yeah,
Iris
Yoga
Nidra, instructor. And believe me, it works. We want you to come down, veterans, here to the 401 Venice Street, and come in and have a session with her. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it'll be very beneficial. And also, if you have questions for me, don't forget to write to me. You can see the address at the bottom of the screen. That's 401 Van Ness Street, San Francisco, California, Suite 123, 94102. And my name is Robert Earl Williams. Thank you so much, Jan, for coming. We really, really appreciate all that you've done for the veterans here at 401 Van Ness. And AMVETS Post 34, we're very, very appreciative of all the things that you do for us. I know this system works. It's very, very comforting. It's very, very relaxing. You're safe. You're in a safe environment. So veterans, if you're sitting home and you have something on your mind, or you find yourself wandering or restless, come on down and sit into one of the sessions with us. Jan, have last words?
Well, I'm just very pleased to be here and to offer this for you and to you, and it's my gift. So please come on down and let's have Iris Yoga Nidra together.
Veterans, we look forward to seeing you, and we're going to hold a place just for you. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
See you next week.